Okay, we'll keep talking about social software with my friends Yuan Sample, who is who I met when he was still working at the BBC, and he was so nice to call us to ask us to show him a little tool that we did many years ago, and it was the first person who called us and said, come guys and show us, was him. So thanks again. Yeah, you didn't buy it, but yeah. Well, actually, you paid for a trial, so it's. And then, of course, Marco Zamperini, who is a very famous and prestigious CTO of Ethno Team, and Lele Dainesi, who is a journalist, a blogger, and works with Cisco. So let's start with you, Yuan. This whole social software thing is great, and I mean Ross' presentation was of course convincing, but as we try to sell these solutions to real companies, they pretty much tend to see this as a waste of time. So please, what do you tell them to try to convince them that this is not a waste of time?
Well, funnily enough, I was thinking when Ross was doing his presentation that I completely agree with everything he said, but for many companies and many organisations, that would be their worst nightmare. And it also reminded me of a conversation I was having with some people the other day there about the parallels between what's happening now and what happened with the printing press, which is a well-known analogy. And the fact that the printing press led to a distribution of the ability to spread ideas and have ideas and talk about ideas in a way that led to the Reformation of the Church and the Enlightenment. And we were getting all excited about the prospect of there being our own equivalent of the Enlightenment in 50 or 100 years' time, when somebody said, yes, but remember what they did to martyrs. And they used to burn them at the stake. And I think there will be a reaction to all this sort of stuff. I think that Gigi this morning as well was talking about the fact that it is, with a small r, revolutionary. I think it will have a profound effect on lots of aspects of our lives. That's why most of us are getting involved in it. It's the same reason that a lot of people will resist it. Those who currently have positions of power and influence, the ones who are less confident. What I'm finding in business is even if people are in the institution or a part of the institutional life, the ones who are most confident, who most understand their businesses and understand the real dynamics of them, are prepared to let this sort of stuff find its level and engage with it and try to understand it. It's the ones who are least confident and least capable who are most defensive of their positions. And of course, it's people who are most scared who will put up the most fight when you try to take something away from them. So like a long way around to the answer to Paolo's question, my response to that and what I say to people and what we did at the BBC was not to pick a fight, was to do the old Zen thing about bending and flowing and going with the cracks and finding places where it was already beginning to work, or finding places where there was people who were already amenable to the ideas, finding people who thought the same way or acted the same way or whatever, and enhancing their chances of making it stick. Helping them understand that other people were doing the same things and facing the same issues, and through that building up confidence. And basically, in the way that the web does, just rooting round the obstacles. And I did that to such extent at the BBC that I didn't ask for permission for the things that we did. Although I wasted a year asking for permission. I wasted a year writing strategy papers and trying to convince senior people that what we were doing was worthwhile, and eventually realised that I was trying to build a new world using the rules of the old one. So what we did was stop doing that altogether, dropped down under the radar, started to build the tools, started to grow the networks, and started to let the thing flourish, confident that if we got it big enough and useful enough before they found out what was going, they would find it difficult to stop. So frankly, that's the kind of advice I give clients, that you won't convince people, you'll waste your energy trying to convince some people. Work the networks and work on the basis of the sort of things that we're seeing make this environment work anyway.
Thank you. So basically, sneaking.
Yeah, being devious, untrustworthy, and slimy.
Yeah. Okay. That was about. I hoped you. So, Marco, well, I mean, your company is working for all the big organizations in Italy, and as we have been discussing in the last few months, you are planning to start, I mean, to bring to your company, to your clients, social software solutions and to get them onto wikis and enterprise social networks. So what's your strategy?
Well, let me say that adding something, of course, I totally agree to Ross' keynote. Let me add that in the same way that in Web 2.0 we discovered that the people is becoming more and more involved in a sort of natural way, so without any have to force the people to participate. If you assess the company, and especially the big company, you can have a discovery phase, and you discover that the people is within the company is using this kind of technology. So they blogs, they have wikis, and we did the same discovery within our own company. Of course, we are a company of about 3,000 people, so we have a huge number of software developers within the company, and so we didn't know there was a number of a development team using wikis, just to make an example, to share documentation about project. So it's happened. Or we had a chat with people working in the organization of a giant Italian bank. And well, I made this presentation about Enterprise 2.0 and how to take advantage of the possible usage of this tool within the company. And at a certain point, an executive of the company say, yeah, yes, because I'm still using the kind of tool you describe, and because you know the IT department is not definitely supporting me in my, because they are forcing me using Lotus Notes that it's so boring, and so I'm using Google Apps to share information and Google Mail. And what happened is that this woman was the executive of a big bank, sharing through Google Apps that the player reading all the information you pass through their server to make ads. And this executive was in charge of M&A, so there was very, you know, sensible information. Okay.
He was getting cool ads.
So, you know, so what happened in this case? But the people want to know this kind of tool only because it's simple. It's easy to do that. But of course, we are bringing them the message that they have to do that within a control environment, of course, because that's the main
Otherwise,
issue.
how do you charge them?
Of,
I mean, if they use
of course,
free Google ads.
some no, but the point is also that within the enterprise, or in general within an organization, you and I don't know, Ross didn't mention that, but you don't have the trust trouble because you are by definition in a trusted environment. I think you get the same experience because, you know, if we are employees of we have the same employer, we more or less by definition. Yeah. Okay. Very right.
Well, just a couple of things on that. I mean, I think that the one thing I noticed there, you were talking about somebody in a senior level getting this sort of stuff. I don't think it's bottom up or top down. I think it's just different people in different places of organisations get it at different ways. And the trust thing, my experience in a big enough organisation is that people become incredibly tribal and will fight over the silliest, smallest things and not trust each other to a degree that's almost pathological. Now, there's a kind of notional kind of IT level, if you like, of trust. But at a cultural level, I think you've got just as many challenges inside organisations as outside.
Yeah, I got your point, but almost my experience for the moment has been that with the mediation of the social network, I mean the people knowing themselves, despite the you know, the barrier of the organization, because I know he's working, maybe Paolo is working in the IT department, and I am an executive, and his boss is really a person that I don't like, but I know him, so I can reach him through the network within the company. And this is what happened also without any technological support. So we, in general, when we have some trouble within an organization, we think to person, which is the person who is able to helping me to solve this problem. This happen not only within the organization, this happen in the world. If I have some specific need, in general, I think to the person that can help me to solve the problem, not the solution. So that's, I think, the very impressive value, because now we have also methodology and software tools that definitely help us to implement this kind of experiences. And it's happening, because I think we are, from my perspective, helping the company to put order within processes that are naturally in some way happening.
Well, thank you. We have a very fine specimen of a guy working in a big organization using social software. So I also happen to be a blogger, so it can kind of bridge the two cultures. Lele, what is your what is your point? How did you experience starting to work with a big organization where social software is used, at least in some areas, and at the same time is a big, very structured organization? So I guess there will be multinational with 1,000 people working. So there must be some limits. I mean, how is social software lived within Cisco?
Okay, the experience is quite strange, almost strange, because you feel everyone talking about social software, blogs, wikis, and applications, and I have many questions also inside the company on how to, not what we could do, because also our big guru is John Chambers. He is talking in any communication relating to Web 2.0 applications and solutions. To me, in my personal experience, what we are trying to do is to transform the idea of Web 2.0 applications, the play part, the fun and the learning part of the Web 2.0, which is related to software like Twitter or, I don't know, also wikis are very funny to have a wiki period, let's say wiki project with other colleagues on, for instance, to translate it into business for companies, for clients. Because Cisco is a company who has these attitudes to help the customer to understand the new, who is advancing, and to help them to bridge them to the new. And is doing that in his history. I'm studying the history also of Cisco, doing it by their own inside. So Cisco is a company in transformation, and is trying to explain to Haver how to, with effects on profit and loss. Because the point to me that is part of my question is how to interact with big companies in Italy like telecom or fast web service providers or new media companies like Mediaset. And as all we know, they are trying to understand, they are start a lot of projects inside, also editors start a lot of projects inside related to Web 2.0. Always the big question is how this could change my profit and loss, could help me in productivity, could help me in save costs of my activity. And that's what we are trying to do on our own with internally, and trying also to help others to not to use but to consider Web 2.0 to solve this kind of problems. I have also other questions. Maybe in next round I could use them.
Yeah, well, you're raising an interesting issue, which I think that all consultants have been going through, which is the dreadful return on investment issue. I think, even if I'm not supposed to, but I think that we should actually change the way we measure these type of things, and it's very connected to the conversation about economy we had this morning with in the second session. But I mean, what do you sell, Jürgen?
Well, two things. I mean, the one thing I wrote on my own blog was that a Scotsman's tip for return on investment: keep the I really small, and nobody will give you hassle about the R. In other words, we're talking about very small amounts of money in terms of investment with this type of technology, and to apply the sorts of rules and the sort of thinking that was applied to multi-$100 million worth of software projects is bonkers. And the other thing is, I'm very wary these days of the people who ask those sorts of questions, and in fact quite often try and turn it back on them. Quick story, there was a chap in my last ever workshop in the BBC who, when I finished the presentation, he'd looked uncomfortable the whole way through, and when I eventually finished, he put his hand up and said, I could never trust my staff enough to use those sorts of tools. They would all end up wasting their time. So I looked at him and said, well, have you ever considered that your recruitment policy might not be working if you're employing people that you can't trust to make basic decisions? How are they going to make big ones? And he still looked kind of grumpy at this. And we then got into the time wasting thing, and I said, well, you know, there's a perception that this stuff's wasting time, but in fact it takes people seconds to answer a question that may benefit thousands and thousands of staff. Especially with younger folks, they're doing this while they're doing other things. And I said, even if they are wasting time, I'm able to quantify for you, because they're wasting it online, just how much time they're wasting, when and how and with whom. Unlike other ways that you can waste time by staring out the window or going for a coffee or just spending too long doing something. But he still wasn't happy, so I said, okay, how do you spend your working days? And he said, I go to lots of meetings. And there's just this strong assumption, and I did a workshop recently in London on this, about the fact that real work, in inverted commas, is never questioned. You know, writing 40-page reports that nobody's going to read, or attending meetings all day that actually achieve very little and just going on to the next one with a to-do list that you're never going to actually get around to doing, is somehow considered real work. And to challenge that is seen as being breaking ranks, if you like. So I think you're right, Paolo. I think that even getting into that conversation is almost a mistake. You know, if you could do whatever you can to avoid that conversation, and this is why we had that stealth approach, because by the time the thing gets big enough for people who ask those kind of questions to notice, the value is already apparent. Now, I'm very conscious you can't get away with that everywhere, and I had certain things in my favour that allowed me to do it where I did it. But I think even if you have to produce some form of ROI, the corporates go on all the time about innovation, creativity, and collaboration. But mostly what that means is forming committees. I think with these tools you can prove, you can show, and there are some of us generating more and more examples where you get those types of things, key benefits that organizations say they need in spades, and for practically nothing. I mean, as Ross was saying, you know, almost zero cost in terms of getting collaboration and connections going. So it's a tough one, and the people who ask it can sometimes be quite aggressive.
Okay, another one for you. I mean, in my experience, social software can be quite disruptive for organization, especially for a very structured organization. Because of course, good people tend to emerge, and people, even they might be good, but they don't work, they don't think, and they don't do like the other might emerge as well, and this might not be very positive for them. And I mean, we do know that there are several companies, especially big companies, big Italian companies, tend to have very rigid hierarchies and kind of be hard to break. So how are you thinking of breaking this thing? Or actually, because I mean, it's kind of, you say, you talk with a big manager of a company and they will probably agree with you. But then what's the strategy to deploy this through the rest of the company?
Yes, of course, this is the challenge. Because if
don't
you
tell us the real secret, but just give us some hints.
There's no secret.
You're not allowed to tell the secret.
Hard work, commitment is the recipe for success. But anyway, that's by definition. But in general, of course, especially within a large organization, you have to implement a strong agreement with the HR department, of course, because anyway you are going to disrupt the human resources department policies, because when you start to discover which are the real hub in the social network, and so this happened to us. We discovered, just to make an example, that a guy that looks like all the other programmers was in fact a technical leader. So
Fired him.
eh?
Fired him.
Of course. No, and so then in our case we implement a program with the HR department to better understand which are the key people within our organization, or the high potential within our organization, and with the possible help of all the team, all the staff. So all the other colleagues helping us to know who. So it's not the HR department saying in the list of the high potential for this, for the next 6 months are this, and this. It's the people voting them. And this works fine, because in general, the people also, if there are small tribes within the organization, but tends to help you a lot. And this is a return on investment that is terrific, because you have a much more better organization. In our case, that deliver better software product. But this works almost in any kind of industry, in my opinion.
So,
Do you agree?
you don't?
You don't.
Why?
No, I don't agree, because actually I did it. I mean, I was an entrepreneur, so I did it. I did social network outside. I did this project within the company against my partners, against Lorenzo and Lucia, you know them. And after a year, I published with the University of Bocconi the result of what I did. I mean, I don't agree when you say it's disruptive of the organization of the company, because you, as the entrepreneur, are the only one who doesn't know. It's disruptive to you, but the social network exists in the company anyhow, and you are the only idiot who doesn't know about it. So it doesn't disrupt the company, it disrupts the way you think the company was, but it doesn't at all disrupt the company. I mean, social network help the company understand more, and after all, an entrepreneur wants to know what the hell goes on, okay? So sometimes it's not what you wanted to hear, but after all, it shows that you have a smart guy that you have anyhow, and your employee or your citizens, to answer the guy of the social, the mayor is the only one who doesn't know what's going on, but all the other know perfectly what's going on. If you take stupid decision, your employees know, and they talk about it. You are the only one who, say, you're kind of filtered by your executives that, there is an Italian song, you know, il nostro piangere fa male al re, fa male al ricco. So we don't want to have the king cry. So we hide the reality.
Yeah, I mean,
the higher you go, you hide the reality. That's a syndrome of the management, but you don't disrupt the company. So this is why I say I don't agree for this standpoint.
I totally agree with Gigi, because to me companies are in an epic transformation now, because I don't think that companies are using a lot Web 2.0 technologies now. They are facing a revolution, who is the collaboration, the mass collaboration, and also my company is not a Web 2.0 company. I can't say that Cisco is a Web 2.0 company. But I believe it's a sense for me to be in a company that is in the voyage to become something different. But I think that our generation and all we, this is provocatory, but we are in the middle of this transformation, because if I think about his daughter or the daughter of Stefano Esse or others, our kids, they are digital natives. For them, there will not be a competitive advantage in information. The problem now is how to manage information inside the companies, to my experience, how to solve for us the sense, how to manage the business speed. Because are we sure that going faster is better for companies? Because we are also proposing social softwares and techniques that help us to be more productive, more interactive, at a higher speed. But is it a value? My personal experience also inside Cisco is that we go to the speed of light, and many times we don't have the time to stop and to think about what we are doing, really. Which is our effect on not only on the business, but on the way people work, live, play, and learn. And this is our mission, transforming the way people work, live, play, and learn. This is my first point. The second is, I was saying before during the presentation, is email. To me, Web 2.0 revolution inside big companies is give to anyone a new way to interact. That means that we are changing habits, and all you know that changing habits inside company is the maximum revolution you can do as a thinker, as a strategist, as a vision. We are changing the way they work, and we know that email, we send tons of email to others because we think that email is cool. Email is not cool. Email is a nightmare. Email is I don't know piaga in English, which is plague. And so social software could be useful to explain colleagues, employees, partners, how to to interact better, and to use which tool to use to get a particular scope. Because you can get some scope using wikis, some others using Twitters, some others using emails. So I think that now we are changing the only way people interact into companies. That is, send me an email. That's my bad experience in Cisco. I received too many emails. I sent too many emails. I want to do something that I do with this friend of mine with Twitter inside the company, because I know that Twitter is the best way to do that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Can I just pick up on something there, Paolo?
Yeah.
Just, I'm always wary of when we talk about changing other people or changing companies. And I feel that I swing wildly on this because I do think there's some effort required, almost in the way that Gigi was talking about. If it's about each of us taking responsibility to talk to the people around us enthusiastically about the sort of stuff we care about passionately. So I still think there's work to be done, but part of me also believes that this is going to happen anyway. And I kind of caused a bit of trouble last year with a post that I said, the 100% easiest way to do enterprise 2.0 is not to do anything. And I meant by that the easiest way and the least effort is to do nothing, because it will happen around you anyway. That doesn't mean you get the best outcome. So I think there's a skill and a lot of hard work in getting a better outcome, but which is subtly different from trying to change people, which I think doesn't work in this environment.
Now I wanted to slightly move to the discussion towards smaller businesses. I mean, it's perfectly fine that we steal to the big and rich 50% profits company to keep the money, basically. But I mean, Italy is a country, and most of Europe is a country made where the economy is heavily based on small and medium businesses. I mean, more than 90% of the economy is in the hands of small companies. And I believe the small companies could actually have a huge advantage by using these type of technologies. So while it is true that we are saying this technology mainly to big companies because that's where the money is at the moment, but because we are small companies and usually we try to we are small company. He's a huge company, so he's in the evil part. He will play the evil. I mean, what do you think that is be the best strategy, and what impact could these technology have? Because I mean, there probably are quite a few entrepreneurs here, and they don't have 1,000, nor 100 employees, but still, I think they could have a huge advantage with these tools, and they could be almost sort of free. And we're seeing many parts. For example, I have several clients in the pharmaceutical marketing, and we're seeing there like more and more small companies are leading research, are taking away from big companies big chunks of the business.
Well, that's funny you should mention that, because I have a good friend who works for one of those big pharmaceutical companies, and he's an IP lawyer. And I, perhaps ungraciously, given that he'd invited me round to his house for dinner, started asking him what was to prevent enough patients or enough small companies or enough scientists pulling together in a Wikipedia open source way to do the R&D, which represents vastly the greatest cost in making pharmaceuticals. Well, R&D and marketing are the two things that cost so much money, and those are the reasons why we don't have medicines in Africa. Surely we could do that on an open source, more distributed way. And he agreed. He didn't have an answer to it. And I think
It's doing.
well, exactly. I don't think it. I think those sort of things are beginning to occur to more and more people. And in answer to the benefit for smaller groups, I mean, I did some presentations to a group of small to medium enterprises in the UK, and I think none of them are big enough to have the internal communication problems that were why we got into this stuff at the BBC. If you've only got 20 employees, you could and should be talking to each other. But what you don't have is the easy ability to talk to other people in the same industry or in the same sector, which is why conferences become so useful. But I can imagine almost like the old medieval guilds, some sort of a much looser association. For instance, actually, I'm about to do some work for the British Medical Association in the UK, who used to be the union for doctors, for GPs. And they still are, officially. And they have this association that's had a long history and is very credible and very prestigious. But they're aware that 27,000 doctors are now members of an unofficial networking group on the internet that a couple of guys set up with some cheap or free software. And they've moved across to that network because it's meeting their needs better than the official institution was. So I think getting people galvanized round associations of different types of industry sectors in a much lighter way than traditional associations have done has got a huge potential.
Can
Yeah.
I give my 2 cents?
That's why we
about
invited
this?
them.
Of course, also this phenomenon is still happening, because just to make you an example, Telecom Italia.
Just as an example,
No,
small
Quintarelli is
enterprise.
gone, so we can talk about Telecom Italia. We can talk about Telecom Italia. And Telecom Italia is consuming each year millions euros of professional services in terms of software development. And they have a quite severe and complex qualification process to be a supplier of Telecom Italia. Now, as of today, they are considered to use as a potential supplier Take a Coder. Take a Coder is a community of software developer, when you can join the community also if you are an individual. And they are in the process of qualifying Take a Coder as a possible source of engaging people. So it's happening. I mean, a Take a Coder is the perfect example of very small company of size 1 can bring together a potential to be a qualified supplier for a giant company. So it happens. It's simple because it happens because it is possible. I mean,
I mean, don't convince me.
No. I think it's
Maybe there is a.
we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, it's simply happening. I think. So there is, or I don't have. If you read the book Wikinomics, you can find thousands of examples in this sense. But I think in general, of course, this is the opportunity this small and super small company were waiting for. So, welcome to the Web 2.0.
Yeah, well, I guess the
I
challenge
mean,
is how
I
to-
mean, it works if you really join the conversation. If you are in the pulse, in the flow, you
No,
can
you
be,
know, in a way, I think it's a cultural issue. I mean, do you remember when we were in together in Milano and we watched the presentation from Chris Anderson, the
Yeah.
long tail one, and I mean, he made this beautiful presentation about the culture and sharing and the web, and then we had a few ministers and professors speaking who were speaking about the problem of the infrastructure we have in Italy, which I actually don't think that is a problem. I mean, the problem we have is the people can't use that technology, not because they don't have an ADSL line, but because they don't have, it's not part of their culture yet. So I guess that the interesting challenge for politicians, for entrepreneurs, for everybody, all of us who are trying to change the world, and we're trying to change the world by changing other people, is how do we engage them and how do we get involved with this issue?
Just that's about the third or fourth time today I've heard that Italy's different. That it's more difficult.
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
I'm just wondering because
I
this
don't think
sort of
so.
cultural thing almost is coming up as an excuse.
yeah,
To me, Paolo, for small and medium businesses, not only a cultural problem, but it's an access problem. They don't have access in Italy. They don't have access to the network. They don't use the network. The network, not in sense of the Web 2.0 software or social networks. They don't use the network. They don't know what the network can do for them. Many small and medium business, many companies in Italy. I could bet the majority.
I mean, they sell stuff to small and medium companies, so they
I know, but considering
should know.
considering them,
they buy them, but they don't use them.
it's my perception. Maybe they buy, maybe they use, but my perception is that the majority of small and medium business in Italy, they don't, not for culture, but also for example, for digital divide, or because they don't know exactly what to do with the network. And the first thing to do, to me, for this kind of cluster is to have them to access the network, not to have them to use social technologies, but bring them on the network. When they are of the network, I think that the cultural problem is the minimum one they have using, but it's a discussion, so it's only my humble opinion.
Okay. There's a question over there.
My name is Mauro Rizzotto. I am glad that Lele said so because he said he was not sure that his company, Cisco, is already a Web 2.0 company. I can say I'm not even sure that the company, my company, and I don't say what kind of company, is a Web 1.0 company. My company is not a smaller one, is a medium to large company. I'm from Treviso, so northeastern of Italy, the mythical northeastern of Italy. My company has to work with the net because for his job it's impossible not to. It's impossible not to think that my company could have been something to do with the net. But my company doesn't know what to do with the internet. Just an example, we have an intranet inside the company. It's built maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Since then, the platform has grown up with a lot of stuff thrown inside where it works. The most important thing, yeah, to work, okay, people who wants to find some information, go to the internet, look for the internet, there is in the internet. And the people say, oh, I can find when the information is. No problem, it's on the net, don't bother me, look and write. We have a project in place for 3 years for rebuild the internet. And I don't mean build a wiki, build an internal blog, or send some messenger stuff inside. No, what's happening is a huge amount of emails sent to me, CC to my boss, blank CC to everything in the company, and an amount of email that makes for us impossible, to, not even to work, but to, okay, you understand. So, I agree totally with what Lele says. Maybe I want, it's not a question, it's not a real question, it's just a share of the thought. I want you to confirm that I am not living in a different world from you, from the one you are talking about.
No, I mean, you're totally living in a very common. I mean, your situation. This is a normal situation in most companies. Absolutely. So it's
Because
no question about it.
my title job on my business card is Internet and New Media. Kind of funny.
I'm sorry. I mean, yeah. Yeah, it's better than working. Yeah, no, I mean, this was my point. I mean, it's one of the challenges that we have is that for some reason, might be cultural, might be whatever, companies are slow adopting these type of solutions, and yeah, they are slower here than in the rest of the world. I mean, they're just lagging behind, like with many technology adoptions. I mean, it first happened in the U.S. It then happens in Europe, starting from the north of Europe and going south. So eventually it will happen, of course. I just want to know if there is any trick we can, we can make it happen anytime sooner.
Can I want to say, okay, thank you. Thank you too. You love what I love you too.
Frank,
But the point, frankly, is he's a friend of mine. Is coming.
You're
the point is,
drawing in.
yeah,
in
it's a little
email,
bit
yeah.
different. To me, we had to start from scratch. And to have the force to say, okay, we want to reinvent ourselves. We want to come back to study how to do things in different ways, because we have a problem inside companies. We have to produce, to earn a lot of money, to sell a lot of stuffs, and that's our day by day, and that is very important because it's what pay my salary, your salary, every one of us here. But we have to get the challenge and the force to say, okay, if I want to do something not new, if I want to think that my company will be here in the next 5 years, not 10 or 12, 5 years, I have to start from scratch from myself, my personal experience. We have a green activity very, very, very hard now inside Cisco, because we know that we as ICT market consume 2% and we are responsible of the 2% of the global warming. There are the other 98% we can contribute to reduce. We are trying to understand how we can contribute to reduce that 98% and how to move on our 2%. We are doing it on inside Cisco Italy on mailing list. It's a mess. So some of us that are bloggers, so on and so forth, propose to use a wiki. Amazing. We have the tools inside Cisco. We are a Silicon Valley company. We have all we want immediately, WebEx, social text, because we are a US company. We can use that really in real time. So we did it. We installed a wiki in a couple of days because we have great engineers inside Cisco. The usage of that in 1 month is not so high, because we have to think that we have to train people, force people, because we are an elite to say we think that is great, but many people work with us, our colleagues, thousands and thousands of people. They're used to have the same habits, technological habits, since 10 years. So sometimes what we did, We made a conference call all together with a product we have. I don't want to do advertise. And we explained to others how to use the button. Wiki is very simple, but people one times in life has to start to prove, to shake their hands and to say, okay, from today I know how I can do something new. Sometimes we lost this first step. We say there's a wiki, it's so easy, use it, and people don't have the habit to do, and they will not do it. We have to do the first step. After the first step, I think that something could go better. My 2 cents.
Yeah, no, of course you have to. I mean, these tools. If you want to introduce them in big enterprises, you need to provide some support. I think that. I mean, the example you were making with the abuse of email is very common, because I mean all big companies do that. Now, besides going to www.socialtext.net and open your own new wiki, considering that we have about 10 minutes and we're closing, what would you suggest as the first simple next step that anyone working in any company of any size should do to, well, not to become a 2.0 company, but just to improve their life a little bit?
It's not so much of a concrete first step, but what I was thinking listening to that conversation, but the biggest single bit of advice I would give people is not to be proud. In the sense that I realised that I couldn't afford to care which bit of the business took to this first. I've got some clients who are trying to be strategic about where they put the wikis. You know, HR should be using them, or R&D should be using them. And I'm saying to them, the chances of you getting enough people who get it, who are willing to have a go at this time in that department, are very, very slim. So in other words, you just have to cast the net very widely, put the technology in as broadly across the organisation as you can, and just be pleased that they use it for anything. And some of our BBC stuff was very pushed the limits of what's deemed acceptable in organisations. But I defended it because it meant people were using the technology. And once they used it for those silly or unprofessional or personal things, they were at least there when the business thing came along and they understood the medium. So I think building a shiny corporate thing and expecting people to get enthusiastic about it is not the way to go about it.
Well, my suggestion is what we experiment with some success is to develop a policy in which you give a prize for the reuse of knowledge within the company. Because with using these kind of tools, you can measure the reuse of, or partly measure the use of reuse of knowledge. And so giving prizes and incentives to the employees. So because of course it's not enough to have a Ferrari to be a Formula One driver. This is the example, okay? As Lele said, they have all the technology they need, but it's not that easy. So quite simple, because the technology are accessible, so you can use it. You know them. You are frustrated because you know that the technology exists a little bit, yeah. And so a way that works quite fine. If you define a policy to give prizes, and then the process starts, and it works.
One final word before our commercial.
To me, to me,
I'm gonna show you a very cool commercial when we're done here.
Step back to me, not to think about the revenues this month, this quarter. Try to begin to think that we are changing. Maybe could say society. Maybe could say we are preparing to the next wave. The next wave are our sons, the digital natives, the wireless generation. We are preparing to interact with them if we don't want to be swept away.
Yeah, they will wipe us. I mean, it's just a question, matter of time. Yeah. So, I mean, to close this session, I'm doing something that I would have never allowed a speaker to do. or a sponsor, which is to show you a commercial. But seems Cisco has done this very cool commercial, and I think it's probably yeah. No. I mean, I actually did want to put my logo at the end of it, but it's I did not edit. Posso avere il regia? Ce l'ho qua, ma non ce l'ho lì. Volevo farlo vedere a loro. Perché allora, vediamo di... Posso avere anche l'audio? Sì, qua è collegato. Ma non si sente, sto aumentando il volume e voi dovreste sentire. Sì, no, ma loro dovrebbero sentire quick. Mi date questo? Yeah, no, I know about computers. Yeah, so rewind it and present it full screen.
Benvenuti. Benvenuti in un nuovo giorno. In un nuovo modo di fare le cose. Benvenuti in un luogo dove si riscrivono le carte geografiche e si includono anche i villaggi più remoti. Un luogo dove il linguaggio del corpo diventa il linguaggio del business. Dove la gente si abbona alla gente, non alle riviste. E non sei tu a seguire la tua squadra, ma è la tua squadra a seguire te. Benvenuti in un luogo dove i libri si riscrivono da soli. Dove potete caricare e scaricare le persone per portarle ovunque vogliono andare. E un telefono diventa un biglietto del treno, dell'aereo, della seggiovia. Benvenuti in un luogo dove un matrimonio può essere vissuto e rivissuto infinite volte. Dove un video amatoriale può essere condiviso ovunque nello stesso attimo. Dove una biblioteca può viaggiare in tutto il mondo. Dove nascono le imprese e i paesi si trasformano. E dove siamo più forti insieme di quanto lo saremo mai da soli. Cisco, welcome to the Human Network.
Okay, they're still stuck with email, but I mean, they do cool commercials. So thank you very much, everybody. See you in half an hour.